Hi, and welcome back to the Cheeky Crypto Podcast. My name's Chris, and I am joined by somebody from the team, JB. How are you, JB?
Absolutely on top of the world. We've just watched Liverpool absolutely scud Manchester United 7-0, so top of the world. How are you after that demolition, Chris?
Well, I'm still breathing, so it's all good. I had to turn it off. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll be watching that again at some point. I can guarantee that. It was phenomenal. But, we're here for crypto, so
hopefully YouTube don't put like a survey in front of it, in front of me underneath the highlights, because it's going to be like face down, like upset face. Look, it's one of those transition, right? That's how I'm going to look at it. Maybe they all had food poisoning or something.
It's not
there has to be a reason that they were that bad.
They had the pants pulled down and they were shown how to play football. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, maybe they had insiders at the United scouting, because I think Núñez and 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗧 were both on United's list of players to sign. So who knows? Who knows?
I think they were. But yeah,
they did well. They did well. But crypto, what on earth's going on in the world of crypto?
Would you believe we had a pullback? We've seen a nice pullback this week. We kind of expected a pullback to come. So yeah, it was good. I've thoroughly enjoyed this last week.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been anticipated, and what we've really been talking about. But I don't think that it's necessarily going to keep going down. I think we're going to have to go up before we have to go back down. So yeah, look, people are going to get confident again, I feel, before the rug is pulled from beneath their feet.
So do you think we will breach 25,250? Do you think we will go back above that again, or do you think that has been the local top and we're down from here?
I think that we'll go up again, but I don't think we're going to surpass that. I think we'll come down. I do think that it's going to be a long, drawn out pullback. I mentioned when the Fed last, did their increase, their rate increase, that I think they messed up. It's my polite way of putting it for this podcast. It's not the words that I used at the time. And I think they're going to have to be a little bit, they're going to have to approach it a little bit stronger for the next one. And I think that's going to spook the market. I think the market, the volume behind it's, weak, and the macro doesn't look particularly good. And the last FOMC meeting minutes described exactly what we've been articulating. So I do think there's going to be a long drawn out, slow grind down to lower prices. But with that said, whales continue to sell, as we've been talking about, even when people were misleading, I think the general public that whales were buying. We've been highlighting that they've been selling for an awful long time. So I think that is a trend that's going to continue. And I think a lot of people are going to be, I want to say, humbled by what's going to happen over the next few weeks. But I don't think humbled's the right word. I think there's going to be a lot of people questioning how they messed up so bad.
Yeah, totally agree. I do not think we will reach the 25,250 USDT Bitcoin pairing. I do think that is the local top, and obviously we are moving down from here. The unfortunate side of that, the speculative ones that we were watching, the likes of AGIX and Singularity down, it doesn't look like we're going to get this next little last pump that we were kind of anticipating. It is still possible, but I'd like to see it as well. Do still have a holding in AGIX, so it's unlikely we're going to see the runs, but nothing's over till it's over. We can speculate on that kind of thing, but the realist side of it, is I don't think we're going to be going up any higher than what we are. And I think also to back that up is obviously the fear and greed index. We're now seeing that reducing again. That's now down to 47. So obviously I do like to kind of use that as a metric as to where buyers are in the market. It's dropped below the midway point. It's leaning towards the fear side. So yeah, I'm quite confident we're going down over time. I think over this next week to maybe as long as 10 days, we will see a move up in the market. The next interesting one for me will be the 15th for the minutes getting released. Not the minutes, sorry, the interest rate decision. I've seen a lot of talk on the minutes, as you said the last time. There's a lot of talk online now that, you know, it's going to be 50 basis points, which should have been 50 before. I do think it will be 50 now. I say it very often, I know, but I do think it will be 50 this time coming out, and, you know, we'll see a bit of blood. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I really do think that they messed up the last time, and everybody that watches regularly would know that. I think they're in a position where they can't really resolve the issues, and they've created these issues. So, you know, with all that, you know, printing of money. So yeah, it's one of those. I think it's going to get far worse before it gets better. We talked about, you know, just going back in time, we talked about, you know, the amount of layoffs that we've had from different tech companies, and, you know, we highlighted that we would expect to see this from companies within crypto. We've seen Matic do it recently, Polygon Matic. We've seen 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, or Immutable, I should say, have also done it. I expect to see more, so watch this space. I don't think this is necessarily a negative reflection of these particular projects. I think it's just actually they see what's coming, as many people don't see what's coming because they're being misled with cleverly cut data to make a narrative look a certain way, when it really isn't. So just be mindful, you know, take what people say, regardless of how famous they are, whatever news channel they're on, you know, with a pinch of salt. Go and be more open-minded, because I say it a lot, but when you hear something enough, regularly enough, it becomes the gospel truth, even if it isn't. So that's why we always say, go do your research. There is groups out there, or particularly like influencers, from the very biggest to the very smallest, all in the same group, you know, and who knows? I'm in some of these groups myself, and I get to witness some of the conversations. You know, I don't want to like say that they are doing this, but, you know, if somebody has a certain viewpoint and it's aired in that group, that could potentially become the narrative, right?
Definitely. You know, I think it's the best way forward, obviously, to research everything for yourself, come to your own conclusions. You know, that way you will have the best understanding as to what's going on for yourself. There's certain folk I like to listen to more than others. It's absolutely no secret there. There's plenty of folk we've called out in here for things that they've said. 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗘𝗥 name one. Do you know what I mean? There's guys at the top of institutions that I've got no interest in listening to because they're not doing what they should be doing. And then you've got folk further down the chain who I would rather listen to because they make sense. And you know what I mean? So it's just the case of doing, as you said, it's your own research to come to your own understanding as to where the space is and, you know, where everything is going.
Yeah, for sure. So let's sort of dig into some of the crypto stuff that we've noticed. I'm going to start with Lido. LDO token shrinks by 10% following rumors crypto staking service receives SEC notice, or SEC notice. Yeah, look, it's an interesting thing to look at. I really don't have too many concerns, to be honest with you. I think the SEC are clutching at straws with a lot of things, and yeah, it's one of those. I have no real concerns on it. But what about yourself, JB?
It's just the SEC doing SEC games. You know, they're chasing everybody down right now. They're trying to chase down avenues which just literally are not there. So yeah, I'm on the same sentiment as you. I've got no interest in really looking too much into that one. Lido's not really on my radar. It's not something I've ever really looked into. I was wondering why, you know, we've seen requests coming through for Lido for the TA. Then I've seen a lot on Twitter about Lido being spoken about, which doesn't usually pop up on my feed and on my, you know, what's happening events and stuff. So I was quite interested to obviously see that the SEC have got an interest with Lido, but I'm not worried about it. I don't think there's anything real going to come of it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons why I'm not really too worried about it is it's you know, it's invested in by a lot of the hedge funds, right? This is a project that I was highlighting back when I was highlighting FTT and Sol or Solana to short just before the FTX collapse. So this one's one that we've kind of said is not going to do particularly well for many reasons. Obviously, the staking aspect is just one, but the amount that's held by the likes of Alameda Research and so forth is another reason to stay clear of this one. So it's not one that I've been invested in. It's not one that I plan to invest in. So yeah, look, I think that I'm not really too concerned about the SEC staking. Lido as a project is not one that I'm going to go anywhere near.
Yeah. So before we do go ahead, there's one event that's happened this week that I do want to kind of shed a bit of light on, and I'm pretty certain a lot of folk in the community will have seen this already. But you know, as we pointed out in the newsletter, the ETH Denver was this week.
Yeah,
now, we can't really phrase what was said here because you know it's not really good for us to say what was said. But the opening ceremony is very interesting, and I advise anyone watching, listening, whatever, get yourself on Twitter, just search ETH Denver opening ceremony, and there's a rather interesting song being performed to open up the ceremony.
Yeah, and like some of the dancing just reminds me of Nick at the recent wedding, which I know he's going to hate me for because it's just not true. He doesn't dance at all. But yeah, look, you can just imagine Nick dancing at a wedding, just like the guys at ETH Denver. Rather interesting, but cringeworthy at the same time.
In my head right now, I'm processing like the film Mean Girls when it's the dance off, you and Chris having a dance off against each other right now. But listen, let's move on to something here. Something I never thought I would openly be talking about is something that I am investing in. Now, it's not Shiba Inu that I'm investing in. There's two projects kind of around here that I am interested in, and I never thought I'd be talking about it in a bullish sign, you know, like hyping up the project as such. But we're seeing a lot of news coming out recently about Shiba Inu and its, you know, its side project. So yeah, I think it's quite refreshing to have something new like this. Some new news like this, sorry, coming out about a project that had little to no utility before. Maybe there's a good future, a big future here with the, you know, the recent things that are coming out.
Yeah, I think that there could be. I think we should also be mindful of some of the negative side of things as well. I think there's a layer 2 obviously that's going to be incorporated into the SHIB ecosystem. I think SHIB is a huge community. I think it's over 5 million, 5.3, 5.4 million followers on Twitter, for example, around those sort of numbers, which is just obscene, right? So I really do feel that it could get a lot of traction. You know, you've got Bone is another one that's, you know, loosely tied to it. Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. Everybody knows that I like projects with use case, and I don't really go near any. I'm going to label them up shitcoins, which SHIB would have been in that sort of category for a length of time. But you know, adding utility, use case, that's a game changer.
Yep, definitely. So I'm glad you mentioned Bone there as well, because that kind of falls into something I'm just kind of going to break down a little bit here. So one of the articles that kind of caught my eye a little bit here was that the Shiba Inu burn rate has jumped nearly 8,000%. So it's not really taken too much off of it. Let's be honest here. I think the total supply is close to 600 trillion. So what has this took off? It was something, there's a figure like 46 million tokens or something that burned in whatever the period was. 43 million tokens in the past 24 hours. So it's not a huge amount. It's like 148 million in a week. So, you know, it's great to see these tokens getting burned, but it's not really scratching the surface to the extent that, you know, we're going to see huge price increases very quickly. But obviously, off the back of that, we're also seeing the likes of, as you mentioned, the layer 2 Shibarium, you know, being introduced to the exchange. Be very careful with Shibarium. Chris has pointed this out before, that there is a listing on CoinMarketCap for Shibarium. We're still not 100% sure how true this listing is because one of the articles here is stating that the SHIB, SHIB Swap will be the network for Shibarium.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just to be careful with this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that the listing on CoinMarketCap isn't a legitimate one, which is interesting. So yeah, look, until it's confirmed, it's probably one to just be wary of and to go do some research on for sure.
Yeah, but also just to add to this though as well, it's my understanding is the 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓 network layer 2 is not released yet.
Yeah.
So how can it be on sexes and dexes if it's not released? So, you know, be cautious with that. But also the other thing I also just wanted to touch on with Bone before we move on is that it's been suggested that Bone will be the gas token. Sorry, the token used for gas fees on 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓. So, you know, they're all kind of intertwined with each other here. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what could happen. It's pure speculation. It's hopium perhaps. But, you know, there is always a chance that these kind of things are going to do well.
Yeah, and I think they will because of the size of the community. But one thing to just add just to that side of things about being cautious is the fact that there are bankrupt crypto companies or lenders that still have an obscene amount of SHIB token.
Yeah.
So I believe that Voyager holds about 5.1, get this, trillion SHIB. So, you know, look, we know that Binance are looking to try to acquire Voyager. Great if they do, but if the SEC get their way and you know, have the opportunity to protect retail investors, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗓 style, which basically means he's going to epically fail, then that might just end up on the market at a very cheap price and potentially, you know, mean that the market's going to pull back heavily. So just be mindful that the SEC are CUNTs and could potentially pick your pocket.
Yep, definitely. So, you know, let us know your thoughts, your opinions on SHIB, the whole ecosystem there, SHIB, Bone, Leash, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗓, everything that's going on. So we're seeing the likes of Voxel Tactics as well. Sorry, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪 Tactics, the RPG game. They're trying to get behind 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗓. So they've obviously, I don't know if they've spoke with them or they're in contact with Satoshi Kusama, who's obviously the lead developer of Shiba Inu. It's just another thing that's trying to get behind 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗓. You know, we might be looking too much into this, but why not look into this? We need to understand that this is going to be one of these 100x's. Is it just pure hopium that we're looking at this kind of thing? We need to look more into this, understand everything that's going on. If it is a true, good, solid project, my personal opinion, I will be investing in 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪 as a speculative investment for my portfolio. I did obviously previously have Lunar Classic, as you guys know, and I did obviously sell my position in Lunar Classic, as you guys do know. So yeah, potentially 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗓, maybe one of two speculative holdings in the portfolio.
Yeah, I've got another project that I am eyeing up. So Patreon members, be on the lookout for a member video or a post or something along those lines. Maybe a Nick/Chris purchase is about to happen. It would have probably happened yesterday had it not been for a 10% increase in price.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
just for clarity, I don't even know what this one is, so I'm interested. I'm interested.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting project for sure. So yeah, we'll see where we go. Obviously, I mentioned about obviously, you know, companies owning an awful lot of SHIB, for example. So, you know, let's sort of stay on, I guess, the subject of, you know, VCs and hedge funds and that side of things. We've got the fact a report has highlighted that crypto hedge funds have outperformed Wall Street according to these reports, and I can't see a breakdown of the report, unfortunately. So I'm going to say allegedly either it's bullshit or Wall Street have just done an absolutely terrible job, because I'm yet to really see hedge funds do well, particularly in crypto recently. So with the likes of Luna, FTX, and everything that's happened, Celsius, Voyager, like BlockFi. I mean, how many more do I announce? Genesis. So if Wall Street's done worse than hedge funds, yeah, I'd be very surprised. How have they done so badly? Were they invested in Luna and FTX?
No, I think there's a good reason why you cannot see the reports, because it's FUD.
Yeah.
Just to be blunt with that one, I do not see hedge funds outperforming Wall Street. Yeah, I don't really want to say too much about that. It's I just don't see it happening.
Exactly that. Like I'm just not buying it. But let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Let us know whether you think hedge funds have managed to outperform traditional Wall Street or traditional finance. Interested to get your views and opinions. I just can't see it. The next thing to cover off is that US lawmakers are arguing the SEC accounting policy undermines safe crypto custody. I think this is rather interesting. They're questioning regulators about the crypto accounting policy, and I think that the SEC need questioning, because I think that they've done a terrible job. And I think, and you can let me know your thoughts in a moment, JB, that the fact that lawmakers are questioning the SEC about the stuff that they're doing is a big sign that perhaps they're not doing things right.
Yeah, totally agree. So I do feel that the SEC are failing in their objectives to what they want to do. Now, bigger picture here is I do feel like obviously we've seen the speculation going on around the likes of Binance and everything, that they don't want stablecoins in the space, and they want the CBDCs to be the power. It's no secret that's the way I do feel things are going to go. So I feel like that's their focus right now, and they're not focusing on what they should be doing. So that's coming back full circle, is they're failing the investors in the space. And I think it's quite rightly that they are investigated, but I would like obviously to see it go higher. I'd like the Supreme Court or like the Department of Justice to be involved with this, to look at the absolute unequivocal failing of the SEC. There's no two ways about it. It's as simple as that. They have unequivocally failed in their objective of protecting investors in this space in recent times. I don't see any other way of phrasing it, any other way of looking at it, other than the SEC have failed in their duties and their responsibilities. So yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled to know that somebody is now, looking at the SEC, and yeah, just a terrible job that's done.
Yeah, I mean, the accounting policy is basically the SEC advising financial institutions that they should maintain customer crypto holdings on their balance sheets. And I get why they would do that. But that is not going to mean that banks are going to want to hold or be custodians of crypto, right? Because they can't make money from doing it. It would just be a cost that they would be bearing. With the staffing aspect of things, or the infrastructure costs and stuff like that. So yeah, it kind of undermines the potential adoption. Yeah, it is interesting, but I think these are all just signs that the leadership within the SEC are just not qualified or have the experience, because they may be qualified, but you can be qualified and just lack any experience whatsoever. So one of the two, with policies like this, I just think that it's yet another sign that the people in the leadership team are way out of their depth. And it's good to see questions being asked. But personally, I kind of would be pushing for prison time for some of the individuals in the leadership of the SEC and other regulators for their lack of being proactive rather than reactive. It's almost like I always use this example, because I used to actually, my first job was to be a lifeguard. And if I would just watch somebody drown and didn't save them if I was on duty, I would go to prison for that. I don't think it's any different when, you know, I look back and I see that people took their lives because they lost all of their money on, you know, the lunar collapse, for example. And I'm sure people, you know, did the same, and it's terrible with the FTX collapse. So I don't see the difference. And maybe that comes across a little bit strong, but I really think if you want change, you have to really be forceful about it. And I think that is the only way to look back and feel like there's been somewhat of progression from these really poor examples of, I guess, regulatory oversight.
Yep, definitely, guys. It's like the way I am right now with the SEC and things that has been going on. Chris mentions it all the time. I've mentioned it a few times. I've called him out. We want to see 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓 investigated and his team investigated for the shortcomings of the SEC in this space. I don't feel like the job they've done is the job that was set out, the job that they're delegated to do. When Luna happened, right, that should have been the one and only time that kind of thing was allowed to happen. The fact that not so long after FTX was allowed to happen, and I'm purposely using the word allowed here, it was allowed to happen. It could have been stopped. The SEC could have stepped in way before everything that went on. So yeah, fundamentally the SEC failed in their duties. I'm just going to keep coming back to this as much as we can. I know Chris likes to do the same thing as well. As the SEC have failed this space, they've failed investors, they've failed exchanges. Let's not, you know, get it wrong here. Everything with Binance as well. The SEC is failing.
I mean, they failed against their own mission statement, their own bullet points on their own mission statement. They determine what that mission statement is, and they failed on 2 counts of 3, in my opinion. And I think it's if you want change, you have to demand it, and I think the investors should be demanding it. And I think we need change, and it's not just crypto. It's not just the crypto market, right? Like you see it in traditional finance as well, right? This isn't a crypto problem. This is a
investment finance problem.
Well, it's a human problem. It's a person that's the bad person, and you know, it's people. You know, if I can get the right words out, is people.
So is the solution here that the SEC should be AI based? Is this where we're going? Will we see an AI integration in the SEC?
I would like to see SingularityNet, you know, implement artificial intelligence to replace 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪. Yes,
I'd just like to see intelligence implemented to replace 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗪.
Yeah, any intelligence in the SEC would be awesome. But I think that they're also failing on other fronts. You know, we won't get into the Ripple case, but even when it comes to Binance and this agenda against Binance, like I see countless amounts of articles where people are accusing Binance of doing things, but it is just accusations. I haven't seen any of them rock up with like, right, here's some evidence, explain away Binance. It's just an allegation, and Binance just have to justify it. And that is also a terrible approach. And I think that there needs to be several investigations into it. But let's move on.
Whilst you're on exchanges there, the one thing that always keeps coming back to my head. So, you know, we were in the AMAs, the twice weekly AMAs, may I add?
Frequent AMAs, you mean?
The one thing that always comes back to my head here is when OKX reached out to Cheeky Crypto and they put all their cards on the table and they told you why their data was what their data was. It just keeps coming back in my head constantly when we hear FUD about certain exchanges that they done that. They didn't have to do it. And, you know, it just keeps coming back to me more and more. It's like, if they can do that, they can reach out to our community. They can reach out to Chris and say, this is our play. Why can't the rest?
Yeah, and more importantly, what that does raise, because, you know, OKX was saying that other people's data, other exchange data is being manipulated. It's not showing the accurate numbers. And I think that, you know, something should be done about that. The SEC should be looking over the reported data. There should be processes in place. FTX didn't need to happen. And I don't care what everyone can argue it with me. Like, if they think I'm wrong, they could argue it until they're blue in the face. And this is what I would say. They would have just had to have made audits mandatory. Third-party company, audit firm, mandatory, right? For all exchanges. That one significant change would have meant that FTX would have been found out earlier.
So let's break it back into obviously the tongue-in-cheek I done earlier on with the AI. So why can't AI be implemented into the audit? Why can't everything be generated? AI can then investigate everything that's going on, and it could be an artificial intelligence-based audit.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things can be done. I guess it comes down to cost, and not only cost, but also motive. And I do question the SEC's motive on a lot of the things that they're doing currently. I've got personal experience of the inner workings of regulators and governments, right? And I've experienced a lot of fraudulent activity at many different levels within many different corporations, and, you know, governments and regulators are included in that. I don't think it's any different when it comes to the SEC. I question how corrupt it is. And I think it would be at many levels. Obviously, it's no different what I'm doing now to what the SEC and you know, people in government are doing with Binance at the moment. It's just an accusation.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
So your opinion.
But I would love to see the SEC argue against me in the respect of, you know, the fact that they could demonstrate that they've been keeping investors safe and having investors' best interests at heart. Because you can say one thing, but the actions speak far louder than words.
Don't think there's anything else we need to add to that, guys. We'll leave it there.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that somebody could argue and change my mind. I really don't.
So let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up with this. We'll bring it back to the market. You know, everything that's went on over the last few weeks and everything that we expect to go on in the next couple of weeks. To sum it up, and it's going to be quite hard to do, to sum up, how do you feel about the market right now as a whole? How do you feel the market is right now?
I don't think that, you know, if I just go back through, you know, my time in crypto, I don't feel, and it is just a feeling based on how I felt in the past within this space, I just don't feel that I've experienced enough pain. I look at my portfolio now and it's somewhere near where it was at close to the peak of the bull run. And don't get me wrong, I've added to it, right? Like financially, I've added to my holdings over that period of time. But that's the first time I've been in that position. I just don't feel that I've experienced a bear market, not a full bear market. I think I've experienced part of a bull run. And I think, you know, there's one more low to come. I don't think there's multiple lows to come. I think there's one more lower low. And then I think we're off to the races. And I think that is going to happen in 2023. I think the bottom will be in 2023. And I think we'll see that trend change. I just think that it's going to coincide with the money printer being turned back on. But I think we're we're too early to expect the pivot from the Fed. So I'm not really changing my thought process from what we've been saying this whole time. We said back in June, after already predicting that June was going to see the bottom at the time, we said it wasn't the bottom. We expected new lower lows, citing the macro environment, potential black swans, the fact that the contagion hadn't completely played out yet. And I think there's still multiple reasons why we could go down into a new lower low. Obviously, we saw a new lower low, like we said there would be back in, I think it was November. And there was a chance that was going to be the final one, but actually, like the macro just, doesn't look good. The fact that the Fed messed up last time round, I think extends the period. And I think they're going to have no choice but to turn that money printer on. But it's far too early. So yeah, I think I have always kind of said June would be the next low, but it could be later than that. I wasn't anticipating the Fed to mess up like they did, and I do think that extends it ever so slightly.
Yeah, I think obviously the feeling should, kind of replicate that across the board. We know it doesn't. We've seen these moon boys on Twitter, but my feelings are pretty much the same. But the pain has not been there to the extent that this has felt like an actual bear market, that it's not been aggressive. Well, I've obviously seen the likes of the FTX collapse, and for the FTX to collapse and us not to see the bottom of the bear market and to not feel pain and to make it feel like that was not aggressive enough just shows that there's still a lot more to come here. I think there's a shock coming to the system soon. Just feeling I'm not going to get into too much as to why, but I feel there's a shock coming to the space soon that's is really going to pull the price back. On top of that, you've got obviously the war. The war's still going on. We can't forget about everything that's going on over Russia and Ukraine. There's a whole host of things going on in the world right now. We cannot forget about them. Then over to this side, to America, the interest rates, they have to get more aggressive with the interest rates, which, as we all know, has a massive effect on our market. So yeah, categorically, I've never once said that the bottom's in. If anybody wants to comment on that, just go back and watch the videos. I've never once said the bottom's in. I've never once said we're in a bull run. This just does not feel like it. The structure's awful. It's nothing in the structure tells you, we're impulsive going up. Overall, I think I have this marked down as Bitcoin has came down in a WXYXZ. Nick is also tracking the potential of this big, scary ABC, which I'm not against seeing. I'd like to see a very low Bitcoin because, out of the pure greed factory, the amount that we as investors could scoop up if we've seen Bitcoin go down that low, I don't think it's off the table. Just to put that out there, I don't think that kind of number is off the table. So yeah, from a greed point, I'm looking forward to a lower low. As Chris said, I don't think it's going to be fast. I don't think we're going to see it soon. I'm not going to put a date on it because it's pointless. You can't time the market. But yeah, lower lows, in my opinion, are still to come.
Yeah, I look at credit card debt is probably its all-time high at the minute. Savings are being utilized to pay off credit card debt. It's all in the data. These are all sort of, I want to say, early warning signs, but they're not really the early ones, but they are warning signs that it's fragile at the moment, and to just be mindful that people aren't going to have the disposable income to invest. And yeah, this is by design, right? Like, these are the hard times to get through, and I think we're going to have some tougher times before we start to see the real bull market actually start. And I really want to kind of say that there's an awful lot of hopium in the space that people are trying to reconnect with that feeling of 2021 when we were at like $67,000 for Bitcoin. But you're living in the past. We're not in 2021. We're in a recession. No matter how the different governments around the world label it up, and inflation's high, interest rates are high, and you know, the money supply is shrinking, right? We need to be conscious of that and aware of it. Now, what I will say is there's money to be made. There's always money to be made in the markets, and you know, we've been calling out for a bear market rally, and that is what I believe this is. I think it's an overextended bear market rally. We saw these in 2018, and you're just kidding yourself if you don't actually see the resemblance. And I am shocked and disappointed in some of the influencers that have been in the space an awful long time, that have experienced the 2018 bear market rallies, if I can get my words out, and you know, are labeling up as a bull run. That's very disappointing to me, and you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Quite rightly said. So listen, guys, you know, obviously we're growing a bit. We're going to try and get this podcast back up and rolling as it should be done. Get some of this pressure off of Chris, because it's not fair, Chris, having to do these all the time by themselves.
I think we're going to have.
Podcast was set up. You know, we need to get this format back, because this is what I listened to start with, enjoyed, and this is what I want to see return. I'll be putting more time back into this again, but I will be leaving you with the usual that, you know, if you are going to trade, please trade safely. Use a nice tight stop loss. Make great gains. Liverpool beat Manchester United 7-0 tonight. Have a great night, guys, and I will see you in the next one.
Yeah, and on that note, I think we'll have a special guest on the channel next week. So watch this space.
Very special guest next
Peace.
week. I didn't want to mention too much about it, but there will be a very special guest next week.
Yeah. He's leaving the garden for an episode or two, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.